Hey, what's going on once again? What's going on once again? We are, as they say, we live, right? We live. For those of you who are just joining, this is your first time seeing one of the videos, let me introduce myself. My name is Ray Destin Jr. I am the founder and CEO of BOBM Publishing. We're a full service publishing house that helps authors with everything from start to finish on their project. And the last 268 that we've launched have actually went number one on Amazon. So proven track record of success. With that being said, I got some information for y'all today. Apologize for my absence yesterday. Hey, my son graduated from 8th grade. It may not be big to many, but it's big to me. We celebrate every achievement around these parts. That way, he understands that his legacy is slowly being built, and I pray that you all do the same for your kids out there. With that being said, this video today is all about how to share your story in a way that it actually helps to get the message out there, but also creates maximum impact for you. And when I say creates maximum impact for you, let me break that down for you. When you're sharing your story, it's going to create a few additional opportunities. If it's done right, it can create a lot of additional opportunities if you do it right. But I want to show you how to maximize your actual story and how we can tell it in such a way that not only do people listen, but they're impacted by it. And because, as we know, in the world of sales, there's an old saying: facts tell, stories sell. So let me show you how to make your story more significant, more impactful, and impact more lives. Some people are out here for the money. We're out here to impact people. So one of the first things, as I always say, I'm going to go high level. I'm going to break it down for you, give you the answers, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to break everything down. So one of the first things about telling your story is the transparency. The transparency, that is so crucial to getting your message out there. People love to hear a story, but they also want to meet the real you. I don't care who you are on media. I don't care who you are when you turn that camera on. They want to know, how did you get from point A to point B? Second, it's about helping others. If you tell your story properly, it will help somebody else through the storm that they're in. It'll help them to learn how to do something major. It'll help them to see that they're not alone. There's so much more that comes with that. It creates opportunities for you: speaking, media opportunities, potentially building a coaching platform. These are just a few of the opportunities that come from telling your story properly. And then we're going to break it down how to tell your story. One, share some events from your actual story. Talk about the emotions. What was it that you overcame? How did you get through? And finally, give them some resources that they can go back to on their own, so that they aren't. What's going on, Terry? I see you out there. Long time no talk. We got to talk and catch up soon. So when it comes down to sharing your story, first thing that we're going to touch on. I see you, cousin, Robert. And when it comes down to telling your story, let's talk about the transparency of your story. One of the first things that most people are scared of when they jump into business, when they jump into writing, when they jump into anything is, I just don't want people to know this about me. And they hold on to this powerful story that they overcame. And they sit back like, well, my story isn't as powerful as so-and-so. And they start comparing themselves. Guess what? Your story does not have to be as powerful as someone else's. What it is your story for a reason. If you look in any great book, if you look in any spiritual book, if you look, my spiritual book is the Bible. It is filled with stories of how people overcame. And so there were transparent moments. There were moments of truth. There were moments of pain that this person had to go through. And so when you share your story from a true place, then you allow other people to see, one, they're not alone. Because, man, I was scared. I I was hopeless. I felt desperate when I lost everything. How many other people are out there right now, especially with the recent events, 2019 to 2022? We've experienced COVID. We lost a lot of people. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people lost income. So when you talk about where you were at a certain point in your life and how you overcame that and got to where you are, what you're doing is giving people hope because you're being transparent. Instead of holding that gift of your story in, you're actually sharing from a place of genuine truth, from a place of genuine love to help somebody else, because there's somebody else right now, whether you realize it or not, that's still going through what you were going through those many years ago. So share it with a sense of transparency. When you talk about the transparency, talk about I'll tell y'all how to tell the story in a minute. But like I said, it helps others. It may help somebody to learn how to do something that you once had to learn how to do. Because most people think, well, I'm not the expert. I'm not the expert like so and so. Fill in the blank. Whoever so and so is, this influencer, this big name, this person who has quote unquote all this money, who has all these followers. But they had to start somewhere too. They started with zero, just like you did. So don't be embarrassed or compare yourself to somebody that's at a quote unquote different level. The only thing that separates you from the person who's at a higher level is time and experience. Time, experience, and work ethic. If you're willing to work at it, you can get the same results that they have, if not better, because they've already laid a blueprint for you. Yeah. So it's all about helping others. The next thing is it's going to create opportunities for you. If your story is told in a way that is transparent and it comes from your heart, what you're going to run into is that people will connect. People don't always connect to other people. You can sit in a room with some of the greats and walk away feeling like you gained nothing. But if you walk into a room that is filled with someone, or someone is sharing a story and you can relate to them, your notebook is going to be full because of all the gems that they're going to drop. And not only are they dropping those gems, but you heard it. You heard it because it was in a tone, it was in a voice that you recognized. And it says in the Bible, my people will know my voice. So just like a shepherd, you have the ability to lead others out of their tunnels, out of their storms, because you're sharing from a place of truth. And it creates opportunities. When you connect with someone, when someone connects to your story, there's going to be opportunities to come in and speak, because they're going to say, oh my God, you know what? You helped me so much. You made such an impact on me. When I heard your story, I just knew that things would get better for me. And I want you to tell your story to, maybe they have a group of kids that they work with. Maybe they have a group of business owners that they work with. Maybe they have a group of college students that they work with. Maybe they have an entire organization that is geared towards the one thing that you love doing. And that's what your story is there for. So it will present speaking opportunities. You just got to know how to ask for the right budget. That's a completely different training. But knowing how to get into those speaking opportunities, it'll create media opportunities. How do you think people go viral? A lot of people that have maybe they made a video and it connected with someone's life. And so as a result of them connecting with someone's life, now that interviewer wants to bring them on, because guess what? People fall in love with emotion. If you've ever noticed, the news itself touches on different emotion points in our lives. So as you tell your story, what you're doing is actually sharing from a place of truth. And so that interviewer knows, if I bring this person on, other people are going to connect to their story just like I did. Or other people are going to connect to their story just like someone on my staff did. And that opportunity creates other opportunities, because maybe they know other interviewers, maybe they know other podcasters, maybe they know other news channels, maybe they know other people who write articles, and they want to hear more of your story. They want to hear more about how you overcame and how you got to that place of success. This is what happens. You'll also have people that come up to you and say, "Hey, I'm still in that place that you were in, and I need help getting through it." That becomes a coaching opportunity for you. You can look at it as a mentor or as a coach. If you notice on the back of my wall, I have coach. A lot of people say, "Can you mentor me?" I don't do mentoring anymore. Certain people get access to mentoring. The difference between a mentor and a coach is a mentor is someone who does something for you consistently out of the goodness of their heart. A coach is somebody that you pay. I'm not a mentor. Don't ask me for mentoring. Um, it is what it is. I heard how I said it. I said what I meant. All right. Now, telling your story. How do you tell your story? There's a few things that are crucial about telling your story. One is you want to share events, share specifics in there. And I'll give y'all an example of telling my story in a minute. But talk about the specifics of the different events that you went through. If you remember specific dates, the one thing that you want to leave out of your story, if it impacts someone in a negative way, is leave out specific names. If it's someone that helped you, by all means, give them their flowers, give them that credit. If it is someone that left a scar on your heart or a scar on your memory, leave that name out. Change the names and protect the innocent. You never know where they are in their lives now. Doesn't matter how bad or how good the situation was. If it reflects them in a negative light, keep their names out of your story. Talk about the emotions. What were you experiencing when you were going through this moment? Were you experiencing pain? Were you experiencing desperation? Were you experiencing hopelessness? Were you experiencing a feeling of loneliness? Were you experiencing just this sense of I need something? Whatever it was that you felt that you needed in that moment, or whatever it was, you may have been crying tears of pain. You may have been crying through a painful end to a relationship. Talk about it. Talk about it, because there's somebody, like I said before, that's still sitting in that moment. But what you don't want to do is leave them on a low place. You want to talk about how you got to the new place that you're in. You want to talk about how you got to a better place. Give them the things that you overcame, but also, and that's really good. You say I just use all fake names to make it easier. That's a really good point. But some people will go back and fact check. So, like I said, you want to include the positive and leave out the negative. But you want to, as you're sharing your story, you want to talk about the bad things that you want to talk about where you were at this low point or at this learning point, because all stories are not bad. Some stories are just about the beginnings of your journey, how you started. Some stories are about I was at my lowest place. I was at the lowest place ever in my life. And if that was you, then talk about it. But walk them through what it is that you overcame. Maybe, like I said, you may have overcome financial situations. You may have overcome emotional abuse. You may have overcome physical abuse. You may have overcome sexual abuse. You may have overcome bullying. There's a lot of things that people go through. You may have overcome poverty. We never know what it is that you overcame. You may have overcome the loss of a loved one. That is part of the very first book that I wrote. I talked specifically about a blinding light in my life, and that was losing the love of my life at 23. She was only 21. The day that I got that phone call, I remembered all the events just like it was today, just like it happened this morning, because I can still see the scenes. I can still see everything that happened. Whatever it is in your life that you went through, talk about it, but talk about it from a place of truth. Talk about it from a place of love, and bring them out of that dark place into the light that you've seen, that you've achieved, the success that you've achieved. Talk about how did you get through it. Give them steps as you're sharing your story. Depending on how long your story is, if somebody gives you 2 minutes, you're not going to be able to give them all the steps of what you overcame, but you will be able to tell them what you overcame and give them a short summary. If they give you 30 minutes to an hour, then guess what? You have more time to expand on it. And especially when you're in front of an audience, initially talking about that story is going to be powerful. But then talking about the steps that you took to overcome that story are going to be even more powerful, because the steps that you took to overcome are going to be essential for somebody who's still in this moment. It's always, there's a reason that how-to videos and how-to searches are the top searches on the internet. If you give them a how to overcome, how to deal with, how to defeat, how to become, those things are important, because now you're giving them the steps, when everybody else will just say, oh, you'll get through it. Oh, life goes on. Don't worry about it. This is just a moment. Nobody wants to hear that when they're in that dark place. They need to hear the specifics of how did you make it through. Because when I know specifically what you did, it gives me that strength. If I'm going through depression, there may be one day out of the week when you're going through depression that you can actually function properly. And during that one day that you can function properly, maybe it's make a phone call to the depression hotline, to the suicide hotline, to wherever. Give them tools and resources, give them steps. But if you don't give them those steps, then your story becomes another story that they've heard, that they feel is exploiting the situation that they may be sitting in. Give them tools and give them resources. If there are specific phone numbers that you called to help, if it's a specific person, give them that person's name. You may not give them the contact information. You may give them the website. If it's a specific hotline, like I mentioned, the suicide hotline, the mental health hotline, the depression hotline, those are all key resources. The domestic violence hotline, I'm not sure these are exact names for the hotlines, but I'm giving you examples because somebody is sitting there in this moment and they don't have the resources that you had to get through. Give them the shortcut or give them the cheat code. And that's what's going to help them through. And that's what's going to make your story resonate with their life, because that's all they're looking for. They're looking for hope. Your story is providing just that. As I mentioned, one of the things that I want to do is actually share a story, because most of y'all see, oh man, this guy got all these nice pictures behind him. He has the office, he got the lighting, he's on multiple platforms. No, let me tell you how it started. And I'm actually going to go back to 2014. July 4th, 2014. I was on track and I was chasing my dream. At this point, more speaking engagements were starting to happen. More, we had just started the youth program, the Claim Your Destiny Youth Leadership Program in Austin. And the person that I was with at the time, the young lady, my dream was too much. We had hit a financial low, and for fear of going back to a place that we had been before, she moved on. I came home to an empty house and a note that just said, "I'm so sorry." In that moment, I felt the lowest that I've ever felt. I literally broke down crying like a baby, because I had, in my eyes, everything that I had was gone. Was no longer had my son with me, no longer had the woman that I had planned on marrying in that season of my life with me. And So 2 days later, I find myself in the back of a hotel in Houston. And I was in Austin initially. 2 days later, I find myself in the back of a hotel in Houston, just sitting there popping pills, hoping that life goes away, hoping that life goes away. But fortunately, God tapped me on the shoulder and said, "I'm not done with you yet." And when he tapped me on the shoulder, he reminded me of the visions that I had seen 6 years, not 6 years, 8 years earlier in 2006, of the speaking, of the youth programs, of being an author, of conferences, of being in front of large crowds, of helping so many people come from behind me. And I picked myself up in that moment. I picked myself up. Fast forward a little bit. The youth program that had started became a big hit in the city of Austin, actually in Central Texas, because it wasn't just Austin. It was Austin, Manor, a few other places out there. And that program kind of brought me back to the reality of what could be. July 13th, 2015, when before I was writing my book, I was just like, I'm not in a place where I really need this book. It is what it is. I just put it on the shelf. From that event, within 3 months, that book just flowed out. But I still was scared to publish my own book because I didn't know about editing. I didn't know any graphic designers at the time. I didn't know about formatting. I didn't know how to publish it. I didn't know how to get it out there. I didn't know anything about marketing. Sat it back on the shelf for another few months. Well, July 13th, 2015, I published that first book. When I published my first book, and this is not the initial cover for the first book, but when I got my first box of books, I was sitting across from a young man. At the time, this young man was only 7 years old. This young man right here. And he looked at me with this look of admiration in his eyes. And he said, "Dad," he said, "when I get older," he said, "I want to be an author and a speaker too." He had just seen everything that I had been through. He had seen me go through the highs and the lows, the ups and the downs, and how hard I go for what it is that I want. 2 years later, we published his first book, Zayden's Awesome Adventures. This dude was only 9 years old when we published his book. From being obedient to what God told me in that moment, at my lowest point, fast forward, other people start asking me about helping them with their books. That's why I sit before you talking about the books that we've launched, talking to you about how to get your book out there. Because now we've launched over 265 authors to Amazon #1 bestseller. We help authors get their stories and their messages out. I've spoken not just in the US, not just in Houston, not just in Texas, but around the country. I've also done a few virtual engagements internationally. And with that being said, all the things that I saw in 2006 that God explained to me, that he reminded me of in 2014, is what I do now. And the only difference between where you are right now and where I am now is that I was obedient and I listened to his voice. Not only did I listen to his voice, but I also put that work ethic behind it, because all I've ever known is to go after everything that is in front of me, full speed ahead. And I'm not going to settle. You shouldn't either. I'm not sure what your story is. I'm not sure what your story is, but I'll tell you this. There's somebody out there who needs your transparency, who needs to know that they can overcome, who needs to know that regardless of how low they get, they can always get up. As long as they can look up, they can get up. Your story is going to change somebody's life. Don't be afraid to tell it because you're scared that it's going to hurt somebody else. Because, yeah, they had a significant role in your story, but they also helped to make you into the person that you are today. So with all that being said, hopefully this video was helpful to you. I don't want to leave y'all on a low note. I want to tell you that you're more than conquerors, and your story is going to open up so many more opportunities for you. It's going to create opportunities for you, whether it be speaking, coaching, or other media opportunities. Whatever your goal is, it starts with your story, because you can tell people all day about how you overcame and give them the short version, that with that smile on your face, but that's not the real story. There's something deeper locked inside of you that's waiting to come out. And once you get it out, you'll start to see that there's so many people behind you that have been waiting on you to tap into the gifts that you have, because God gave you those gifts. God gave you that story. God gave you those obstacles. God gave you the significant people and resources in your life for a reason. Now it's time to tap into it and go forth and be powerful. Once again, if this video was helpful to you, do me a favor, hit that like button, drop a heart, and go ahead and share it, because we're not just trying to help you. We're trying to help other people out there who have that story, who have that book locked in their heads, get it out of their heads onto the paper so they can help you and others like you. I love y'all. Ain't nothing y'all can do about that. I love y'all from the bottom of my heart, to the moon and beyond. Love y'all.